Thanks, everybody. Welcome back to, Mythlander's working title and the session 6 of LandFall. Last time on LandFall, after an intense fight on a hilltop for and around a magic pillar, after exploring it somewhat and escaping the enemy Lear, the company now is moving through the jungles, now seeking to escape one of the menai, the powerful sorcerer lords and ladies of the northern wastes. They are singular and solo. Their powers rival that of any Lear warband. Currently, they are moving down the mountain from the hill itself, where they have just found lost magics, although not as lost as the world seems to think, as there are 2 in the party, one known and one unknown, who are capable of healing magic. Let's see here. Those are the broad strokes, but you all have anything to add? Joe, DL, Bri? Or any questions about last session?
No, I'm pretty good. That covered the bases. We're running away, trying to get back to Everstar. Hopefully, avoid this menai.
Indeed. How about you, DL? Anything to add? Any questions?
Yeah, I got a big thumbs down for that Guardian. Guardian. Supposed to help the person that summons it. Guardian.
Can't trust anything if you can't trust the company magi, you know?
How did it build the thing?
How about you, Joe? Anything to add? Any questions?
No, I think I'm all good.
All right. Before we go any further, ordinarily Pon is with us and is attempting to join us right now, but is having internet connection issues, so they're going to join us when and if they can. So we're hoping they get in soon, fingers crossed, but we didn't want to waste anybody else's time, ours or yours. Thought we'd get right into it. So let me go ahead and switch to... okay. So before we switch back to any maps or anything like that, as Kinnet and Firma being on point, so to speak, Kinnet, you're sort of in between, at least your company needs you to be close enough to, for the most part, to be seen pretty often. They seem to lose their nerve, their focus, their morale, just a hair whenever you step out to scout. So it seems like as you, as your role, as you continue your role as Soranasa, or company commander, Huntmaster as it's known, you are sort of, having to carefully weigh when you go out, how much you trust what Thrumnir's seeing, and versus the impact on morale when you step away, or the risk to yourself. You think they might follow Krenshaw, but you again might have your doubts that he'd lead them to safety. So any thoughts on that for Kinnet as you all are moving down the hill?
I'll stick with the group. The mission has to be completed, and if people are going to wander off or get scared, we got to keep the group together, keep them going. Our best chance against that giant flying thing, whatever it might be, is, as a group. So, chins up, eyes forward, let's go.
Absolutely. See, as you move down the hill, you will, packed together, surrounded by the much taller soldiers. Take, giving an eye to the company magi occasionally, giving, some spare attention, hoping maybe she'll come out of it and give you some word of advice, or, but barring that, you still have access to her tools as protocol demands. You can sort of reach into her pouches, you can take hers as your own if needed. As far as what's alliance issue, she has personal effects you're not supposed to take, but you could probably get away with it.
2 best things: wand of fireball and this controlling device.
Yes. Welcome, Evelyn. I see your face popping on. Currently frozen. Ah, I see what you mean when you said you're having connection issues. Well, it's lovely to have your face in the stream, and I'm sure we'll hear your voice here in just a moment.
And I guess before we get too far in, did we want to do just a quick roll call on there, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm Brian, playing Krenshaw, the grizzled dove fighter.
Absolutely. How about you, DL?
Darth Loquater. I cover a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes mobile game on YouTube normally, so you can check me out over there if you're interested in mobile games. Today I'm playing Kinnet. Kinnet is a scruffy-looking ranger type guy who's apparently been elected the leader of the group by default. When the real leader went down, the scouts had to draw straws, so Kinnet is now the de facto head of the party until we get back to the boot.
Indeed. Indeed. How about you, Joe? Introduce yourself, say a little bit.
Joe Finkowitz, or Jay Finks. Today playing Zim, the halfling druid, one of the magi in the company, having just discovered druidic powers, most of which are in some form or another more beneficial to the party than damaging or anything, except there's a few. And a good aim with a wand of fireball.
Indeed. Howdy, Evelyn. We're excited to have you. Excited that your internet is working. Can you hear us okay? Hey, Evelyn, can you hear us all right? I'm guessing you're having audio troubles. Okay. Well, all right.
This work? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, can definitely hear you.
Does it sound okay? I've got too many options for my microphones. I'm not sure which one it is.
Ah. Oh, that is the, I think it's I9 or ID9. It's real short. Yeah.
This is Q91.
Yeah, that was the model. Yeah, that's the one you showed me.
That sounds probably best then, I'm hoping.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Excellent.
I hope this is the last time. It's cut out on me since I've been on here. I'm guessing my router's just shot. It's driving me nuts. So
Okay.
I apologize for that.
No worries. We'll see how it goes, like with anything else. We'll do our best, and yeah. So, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you're playing, Evelyn?
Well, I need to consolidate my names here. I'm known as, on some places, as Evelyn Bordeaux in the D&D realm, but on Twitch I'm known as Pon. So, primarily I've been working on some streams that are art related, and I would suppose you could say philosophy oriented. I'm a little off my center at the moment because of all the tech frustrations, but that is currently what I have.
All
And
right.
my character, Saida. Wow, I am so sorry, everybody. I am not with it at all.
It's all good.
I don't know. She's badass paladin, and she's an elf, and she's headstrong and rushes into things probably faster. Live life on the sea as a sailor. You got to think fast, or it's over. So, yeah, that's what I have currently.
That's great. Excellent. Well, welcome back to the table. Super glad everything's working well on your end, at least finally. Excellent. So, as I was bringing us back to the moment, you all are moving down the hill from where you had the interaction with the pillar. Many interactions as Zim sort of explored it, and you all scouted and protected the area, and managed to prize several secrets out. Having met your mission parameters, decided to hightail it back to the strand itself, waiting for the next bridge to get back to the city, turn in what you've seen, and get some rest and some medical care for most of your company. There's not a single one of them that haven't, one of you that haven't been hurt in some way. Currently, you've made it past the bottom of the hill, where I believe it was. I believe it was Kinnet. Scrolling back up, detected the sulfury smell of a hot spring nearby. In the air, sort of moving unerringly towards you, but seeming to be unhurried about it, is a ochre-cloaked, robed menai drifting towards you. You can see the glistening of its glass-like armor as it continues to correct its course, flying through the air at what seems to be, considering your circumstances, quite a leisurely pace. So starting off at the bottom of that hill, as you are retracing your steps back toward, back the way you came, back toward the bridge, trying to stay within your quadrant, your sector of the jungle, and not, break any of the rules, basically, in terms of survival out on the firm. One of which is to avoid other companies, not digging holes for ground fires or anything else like that. Most of which you all have personal experience with the failings of. Any company that digs down to entrench, or for any sort of ground fire or anything like that, risks summoning up the grave gnomes to drag their company down. And every fight attracts scavengers and often larger predators. So it's often a disaster to go and help another company. That being said, before we move any further, Evelyn, as Saida is moving back down the hill, having seen what you've seen, for you, like as mentioned, healing magic's not a completely lost art, but it's rare to see it outside of your family. Unknown, certainly among the rest of the world, since you've since discovered. And in the claiming of that hill, in the climbing and ascending, the fight for it, Saida's gotten some scars and a near-death experience. Curious if she has any thoughts as you all are moving through the jungle, retracing your steps, rushing, hopefully, ahead to make a defensive place, or hopefully the bulwark before the menai intervenes or stops you. Is there anything in particular that Saida might be thinking about or experiencing?
I think she's starting to understand that the paradigm of being in a group of soldiers is quite different than a crew of sailors, and that perhaps she might want to move a bit slower if she wants to survive, not act so hastily. So I think she's reflecting on her damage that she's received in terms of her voice, and how tight her throat feels, and she's incredibly pensive. So I'm glad you asked. It's but she really also is just focused. You need to go next because the survival drive is very high at the moment.
Absolutely fair. Just one more thing in the background. All right. So as you make the bottom of the hill, beginning to move, you can see how the cut down, knocked down brush in the area of your first real battle with the Lear itself up ahead of you, and now you're certainly on level ground. you trying to track the menai's movements through the trees as the trees sort of block your view. Let's go ahead and, well, actually, I don't think there's any need for exploration initiative. I think we'll go starting with the scout and move around from there. So, Kinnet, as you are, attempting to, stay with the company, sending Thrumnir to and for, what are you doing to assure that you all get back to the bridge in safety?
Well, we're trying to figure out where we're going to fight. So if this thing catches up with us, where do we want to be? There was a clearing where we fought the Lear before we came up onto this hill, and that was surrounded in trees with an opening in the middle. It seemed like maybe that would be a good place to fight. Aware of the fireball wand type magic, I'm very reluctant to have the group like they are right now, because I feel like if that whatever it is drops a fireball in the middle of us, we would all get killed in our current formation. So I'm looking for advice from the group. I'm asking people, do you want to be spread out? Do you want to, how do you want to do this? So I'm willing to take feedback, but I feel like we should get into that area and spread out into the trees and fight the menai from an ambush here if we can.
All right, I've switched this back over to a map screen, and transitions over. So yeah, anybody have any thoughts in response to Kinnet's questions?
Well, depending on how far away it is, we might want to try and get back to the battlements if you think we can make it. It would be faster to march in a double file line and trudge through the woods, but if we need to pick a place to fight, this is probably the best. That clearing is probably the best one. Just depends on how close the menai is.
Okay, as we enter this clearing, how long does it look like it's going to take at the pace that thing's flying or coming?
At this point, it seems maybe 350 feet away. It seems unlikely you're going to make it all the way to the strand at this point, unless you sort of cut through a different sector. If you all headed directly east, you could probably avoid it. You would certainly break protocol. You'd be passing through another sector, as well as moving through territory you haven't explored yet, and you don't necessarily know what's there in terms of shambling mounds, ropers, manticores, and such like that. So it seems that your option is fight them and I, risk unknowns, and break in the rules.
Well, I would rather fight than break the rules and get everybody else killed too. That doesn't seem like a good idea. What do you all think about spreading out? Do you think we should stick together or spread out? I expressed my concerns about, everybody in the party knows what a fireball is. That's what I'm afraid of.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think spreading out is probably a good idea. Set up almost an ambush position. Use the spiky bushes to our advantage.
And put the tireless out in front to engage when it lands, and engage with ranged weapons when it comes in range. That's what we're going to do.
I believe there was some puddles that potentially had bloodworms in them. It might be worth it to try and set the... They probably don't know that flying in. Just a point of clarification, Krenshaw actually doesn't know what a menai is. So sorry, I said menai as Krenshaw, but he doesn't. That flying thing is what he would call it.
Fair. Yeah, I put a square up where some of the water is pooling. Actually, no, it was this. Let me move it again, because I removed a troubling graphic. It kept just turning into a big dark blob on the map. It was not pretty, so I had to get rid of that, and instead we're just going to use a red block to show the the standing water that you all are concerned with. All right. Saida, did you decide to have any thoughts about how you all set your defenses or how you deal with the current challenge? All right. How about Joe?
I'm a giant lizard at the moment, so I just look at them and tilt my head.
Right.
I feel like I missed something. When did you become a lizard?
At the end of the last session, I wild shaped into a giant lizard. And we're just gonna stampede down the hill. Now, sounds like we're not stampeding down the hill. But I'm gonna stay as giant lizard as long as I can.
All right, well, let's spread out in the anti-fireball formation then.
All right. I have to refresh roll 20 real quick. It's let me grab one of my tools. There we go.
Giant lizard noises in confirmation. And go up into the tree.
All right, I'm bringing a token out for you.
I got a giant token.
Okay, excellent. All right, so you have the company spread out, and so you can go ahead and move your tokens as you like.
Krenshaw will shout the line up around the flanks. Hold the wounded commander and mage in the back with a guard, and everyone else spread out. Move the tireless dead forward.
And it's coming from behind us or
To the north. Yeah. It will be, yeah, it seems that it will be coming from the north. I'm going to zoom out a bit. And so, once more, you want them all sort of spread around
Yeah, I think
the area where they're at immediately, or do you want them to move north and spread, like, sort of between Kinnet and the Hawk?
Yeah, just kind of along the line here, like that, and maybe some over here. So, yeah, just, I imagine we're trying to, this looks like one of the only safe places for it to land, so, and then, yeah, those three can hang out in the back there.
Okay. Fair. Excuse me. Thrumnir makes a circuit of the area. He spends his turn just sort of making movement around, looking for any other hazards, particularly carnivorous plants and such. He comes back and shakes his head at Kinnet, suggesting he doesn't see anything else of danger, at least not currently threatening you or within range.
You seem like we're
Okay.
gonna fight
I'm
a
gonna-
wild shape.
What's that?
Giant lizard can do.
DL,
I'm
you
going to
started?
share a couple good berries with Krenshaw and Zim and explain to them what they do. And you guys each get 2 good berries.
Nice.
Good. Using one of those as a bonus action or action?
I'll allow it as a bonus action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So, is there anything else you all do to prepare? You have, it seems like maybe a round or two as this thing is definitely picking up a bit of speed, it's moving towards you all. So in fact, let's go ahead and highlight our tokens and roll initiative.
We're gonna already ranged attacks when it gets close, though. I'm sure, right?
Yeah, Krenshaw would shout to ready crossbows.
See, you guys still hearing the music? For some reason, it's not.
No, not in roll 20.
Interesting. All right. All right, I'll try one more time.
Now we can.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right, double checking. Okay. All right, looks like Saida's not going to be able to join us after all. Seems like connection issues are keeping her down. We've all had some of those experiences where our internet's just not working. That is rough. All right, so starting with the top of the order, like I mentioned, you all had an extra round to prepare. Kinnet, aside from giving orders, getting everyone to spread out, is there anything else that you do to prepare? You mentioned a ready to action.
Yeah, just readying crossbow to fire when attacked.
All right. How about Kinnet?
Do we have any magic, aid, spells, things like that? Helpful stuff?
Nope.
Yeah, it seems that the only thing of benefit you all have from the other Kachina is her wand of fireballs and her scrolls of undead, which Zim has used some of. One of.
So I start to make a command, and I'm like, prepare the beneficial spells, and everybody looks at me like I got a hole in my head, and I'm like, okay, moving on, get ready to shoot.
Arrest sort of pipes up and says, "You hear that? Our new commander's ready for anything." Well, then Boss makes an off-color remark about members of his family being ready for anything. They both share a hard look, which tells you that they're not particularly tense at the moment. The rest of the soldiers, however, very much eyes sharp. Even Thrumnir looking nervous. Most of your Soren, the men and women following you are quiet. There's a furtiveness and hurriedness about their actions. Most of them don't want to be here, and Kinnet, that's something you're sympathetic with, I imagine. All right, so as you had all of your remaining Soren armed with their heavy repeating crossbows and readying actions, that's exactly what they do. Many of them try to dig down into the foliage and cover themselves a little bit, get a little bit of concealment, but just as many seem uncomfortable with the foliage. Probably even by habit. No one's been around greenery like this, but also greenery has a tendency to come alive, eat you, and the things under it and around it to do the same. Toward the back, Hadreen is still, just keeping up the rear. Watching, not, she's near enough if anything jumps out to hurt the commander or your magi. But she is also looking to the skies, trying to chart where this menai is and readying an action to attack. How about Zim? How's it, anything else that Zim might be doing to ready himself?
Yeah, I think Zim has now gone up the tree as a lizard and then unwild shaped, like 10 feet up or so. And is going to prepare an ice knife for when it lands.
All right.
Very nice.
Saida, I imagine, moves up toward the front, trying to be near enough. She stands beneath one of the trees, obviously not hiding, clearly just breaking the line of sight with this creature, and trying to be in a position that if it lands or comes in range, she'll be able to charge out and do something to it. You can see between breaks in the foliage itself, through the fog of almost sleeting rain, you can see the sort of drab ochre blur of the menai moving in. It is... It's hard to tell where it is and where it's going to come in. It's suddenly moving very fast, where at once it was sort of streaking in, it's now darted to the north. You now see it over to the west. And finally, it presents itself roughly on the other side of the muddy area of standing water. As it does, all of your companions and cohorts release their salvo of silver bolts into the air, and you all can feel free to make those attacks of opportunity and spells of opportunity that you all have readied. Is it
23.
very nice? 21 for Krenshaw on his crossbow.
21 for a crossbow.
Nice. A 12 on Siava's ice knife. Let's see here. A hail of silver bolts fly through the air. Only 3 of them seem to strike anywhere really close to the menai. The menai raises a single pinky. The air wavers in front of it as if ripples of heat coming off a hot stone. And Krenshaw, your bolt stops in the air, slowing down just before it. Zim, your ice knife as well, sort of slows down and melts within the magical shielding of the menai. But Crenshaw's bolt and one of your soldiers' crossbow bolts strike home. Kinnet, you can go ahead and roll damage. Absolutely. All right. So that will be a dex save. Give me just a moment to bring that up.
How close was the ice knife?
Well, let's see here. Let's say... Well, it misses. So I would interpret that if it misses, it explodes immediately. So it explodes right next to the menai. In which case, it does have to make that dex saving throw. And that would be a 20 as it almost lazily sort of drifts to the side and out of the way. Its pinky still up, making the air around it shimmer.
Alright, takes no damage.
Indeed, it seems to move away, avoid entirely the explosion of ice shards, twinkle, melt in the air.
And you said the 23 that Kinnet rolled hit home, but not the 21, right?
Yes.
Okay.
With the top of the order, the menai raises once more, well, its pinky still up, holding that wavering form. You see its other fingers sort of rotate around each other, casting a seemingly complex spell with only one hand. Electricity begins to arc from its fingertips and then scatters across the soil, across the air through you. The bolt partially traveling just through the wet air itself, but partially through the soil as it sort of jumps, arcing through the ground, scattering clumps of soil, and moving through that sort of first cluster. It seems to hit. Actually, let me shift it a little bit, as it's got some decent range. And let me get tilted a little bit to the side. That's not the exact path of it. It's more. Oh, man, 120 is not wanting to let me control things all of a sudden. I'm going to go ahead and adjust a couple of things. So for the tireless, I'll need to roll dexterity saving throws, as it. And it's not a straight line. It sort of fans out. Over about 10 feet, it branches out another 5 feet. So, by the end of it, both Bast and one of the other soldiers have to make a save. The tireless both have to make a save, and Kinnet has to make a save as well. Kinnet, you are in the brush, so you are partially obscured and protected, so you can take an advantage on that saving throw, that dexterity saving throw. As I said, it does sort of widen the further the bolt goes.
23 for Kinnet.
Nice. All right. Zim, you have access to the tireless. I believe you. Let's see. I believe you can roll for them. Or if not, you can just roll the d20s, and I'll add to it. And it seems that Bast and the Bast is taken absolutely flat-footed. It's hunkered down, firing, reloading. The other sworn tries to throw itself to the side, but some of the scattering forked tongues of electricity arc over it, sort of making them spasm.
All three of them? The entire listed?
Just the two on. I'm sorry. Yeah, 1 and 3.
Okay, that's 17 and 8.
All right. So that is 32 points of damage to those who fail, and 16 to those who succeed. Oh, no, rest. That's the wrong one. It seems as
I'm
if...
at 2 hit points.
in a wreckage of smoking soil around you. It seems that Bast's number has finally come up as he drops to the ground along with the other soldier caught by the lightning. And I, now with its other hand, cast yet another spell. This one seems to shift the rain around it, and it seems, hearkening back to the protective dome on the hill that was summoned around the pillar, the rain starts sliding off an invisible barrier. And top of the order is Krenshaw.
Krenshaw is gonna say no, and he is going to kind of run up as far as he can, still keeping his action. And I think he's within range. Fire off another bolt. Yeah. And then, yeah, Crenshaw will fire off another crossbow bolt towards this creature that just landed. Getting an 11 to hit. I'm going to reserve mine.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very distressed. His aim's off.
Yeah, you see a flash of ugly green light, and the bolt is just sort of deflected, like it struck some invisible piece of metal, eliciting these ugly green sparks. Seem to be some deeper defenses within the shifting heat field. Any movement? Anything else for Krenshaw?
He's out of movement and not close enough to make a difference for action surge, so nope, that's the end of his turn.
All right. Next in the order is Kinnet.
Did I get the impression from that she's protected by the same thing that we were protected by up top?
No, but like it's a similar effect. Like,
So basically what I'm trying to think is if I tell everybody to hold an action until the creature goes again. So if we all hold an action until the barrier drops and then the barrier doesn't drop, then we're just kind of screwed. So
yeah. You saw it fade. It seems to, well, the rippling field seems to be something it summons, like a shield. The other one seems to be a spell that it's either going to be that's just going to last, or maybe concentrating on it. It's about the extent probably that you would understand really of magic at this point. But it's
okay.
hard to tell at the moment what that's going to be until you observe, you know.
All right. So which character is the bad guy? Where is the bad guy right now?
Up top at the top of that black rectangle.
That far away. Holy cow.
Yeah, that seemed to be about the extent of its movement as it came in to unleash that lightning through the air and ground at you all.
All right. Well, I guess I shall reposition Kinnet to here, and we'll take a shot with an arrow, see what we can get done.
Oops.
19 to hit.
All right, with a 19, it once more crooks that pinky, and the air around it ripples, slowing the bolt down until it just barely touches the armor and drops to the ground. Now that you're kind of close enough, the armor does seem to be glass. You're not sure how much it actually protects them, or if it's just enchanted, or if it's just for dress.
All right, nothing for bonus action, so that's me.
All right. So, once more, your soldiers sort of shifting position. All right. Need to refresh roll 20 one more time. All right. All right, there we go. Now I can actually move the tokens a bit. The Soren Moore and Soren Hu all shift around, trying to get closer, get a clearer shot, but still attempting to stay spread out as the orders you gave. How Hadreen gestures for Brahm to move back back away into the underbrush. As RS seems to be sort of steadily moving forward, he's not crouching behind cover. He seems to be a bit unhinged after seeing Bosch fall, and he's just driving forward, his repeating crossbow unloading, clank, 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 bolt after bolt, toward the menai. He and, oddly enough, Hadreen seem to be the only two that hit through that wavering field protections of the menai. However, the bolts don't seem to be sinking in, not nearly as deep as they do with other enemies. It seems to be resistant to the type of weapons you have, perhaps the wrong material, or they're not enchanted powerfully enough. In any case, the now 3 bolts and an arrow standing proud out of its chest and shoulders don't even seem to be slowing it down. It seems to show no sign whatsoever of pain. A look of bemusement, sort of like it's satisfying its curiosity, and that you are entertaining it. Even Thrumner's bolts seem to skip off of the creature. Next in the order is Zim.
Alright. Zim is going to take out the wand of fireballs and point and shoot.
Alright. Yeah, looks like you got range there.
Clear out the spells page.
All right. Once more, in a blur, with the menai's glass-booted feet not even touching the soil at all, it again sort of dodges, drifts to the side, and sort of quickly flows back into that space. At the same time, it does sort of twitch the end of its cloak up, as if to block its face somewhat, and it crooks its other pinky. You see some of the fire dissipate as it boils around them. Although their hair is whipped around, the edges of that ochre cloak are now tattered and smoldering at the edges. You can make an Arcana check or a Nature to see if you can discern what happened there. Survival might also work based on you all's training. And that's all of you can make that check.
16 on survival.
Okay.
Same, exact.
Awesome. Something that you're all pretty familiar with, your magi. It's a commonly trained thing. The absorb elements. It's a spell where they can sort of take in and redirect portions of elemental energy. You think that it was, additionally, you think that it was able to avoid some of that damage just by its posture and movement with that dexterity saving throw, but it also seemed to use absorb elements.
Okay, that's all I got.
See the shimmering field around it fade once more. Saida, I imagine, frustratedly looks to the north, gauges the distance, thinks better of... Well, what's Kinnet saying to her?
Not necessarily run full tilt, but yeah, start working your way around the trees, like this.
Sneak to them. Find cover.
Position to get in combat. I would think.
Yeah. Okay. That is a mess. It should not do that. All right. That's all right. Dropped off. Okay, so she begins crashing through the underbrush, breaking line of sight, still able to hear and see, sort of looking out to her right and checking her progress and orientation with the, with the sort of the clearing in the area. And she spends her turn dashing. The menai, the sort of 3 fingers on his right hand, on their right hand now, weaving together. The air around them sort of shimmers with a silvery, muted light. And then it fades, the area, sort of a bubble around them, somewhat darkened. You can see the arrows of your allies, the bolts, the silver bolts, begin smoking and turning black once they enter that space. And similarly, the bolts already sticking out of its chest, having shattered the armor, standing out of its ochre robes, and the arrow that Kinnet fired all begin to smoke and sort of turn and blacken and shrivel. It takes a step forward. It seems to blur. It is now hovering about 10 feet above the bushes here. As it does that, it points. It whispers something to itself. The air shimmers between the tireless and Ares. It seems to fold outward. You get the sense of a vast space hidden from the eye. But as it unfolds, something moves out of it. Long, roping vines, gore, slick tentacles, wet pseudopod. It's hard to tell. It seems, at first, you want to say it's something like an octopus, but scaled, having teeth on each of its feet. Then it seems that it's made of maybe moldering feathers, another old leaves, even another layers that you might see in fetid water, the sort of murk on top, the dirty water itself, and the thick, sort of oozing layer of mud. It suggests layers shifting on top of layers. It suggests something that you can't see, that your mind won't see, that your mind would resist trying to make sense out of. Zim, you can make an Arcana check. You can make, or nature or survival. You can make that with advantage, as it's part of your training. The rest of you can make that survival check, but no advantage, as it wasn't particularly part of your training.
Another 16 for survival
All right, excellent.
for Krenshaw.
Excellent. All right. So you both are familiar with this by description as an indescribable shifting form summoned by the menai. They are considered demons. They're simply known as horror demons or shifting demons. When you and now all the briefing makes sense as you look at it. Your mind naturally wants to make sense, but there seems nothing for your mind to purchase on, nothing to, no information to organize. The nature of it seems so impossible by the standards of your reality that it's maddening to look upon. So the two of you can avoid those saving throws. As you see it, you sort of avert your eyes. And Kinnet, you can also make that check, as it's something you, but just as a straight roll. not something that you're aware of.
11.
All right. Well, that would be a a wisdom saving throw for Kinnet. And the rest of your soldiers, including RS.
All right, 16 of my wisdom save.
Excellent. All right. So you, seeing something impossible summoned by a very powerful creature that you're briefed on, and are told that they are more powerful than your most powerful magi. They can do things with magic that are impossible to the magi of the effort. So you just stop looking at it. You're like, yep, I'll track that, but you're sure it's a summon, some sort of summoned creature or monster. So you don't get lost in trying to understand this thing. You quickly assess it and turn your eye away from it. Now that being said, to attack this directly, that puts you at disadvantage because if you look at it directly, you're subject to that saving throw again. And you get the feeling of just falling into a stupor, or worse, if you stare at this thing long enough. It naturally wants to rack the mind. So a few of your soldiers scream. Others stare stupidly at it. Ares is still firing now firing at this thing where he was firing at the menai itself. From its position, the tentacles seem to lash out toward the tireless dead and toward Ares. Just a moment. The first tentacle slashes out toward Ares. He sort of ducks his head to the side. The next one he knocks to the side with the sort of butt of his crossbow as he puts it back in position, continues to fire. The tireless dead, however, is not nearly as lucky as first one and then two of these impossibly segmented, at once skeletal, at the same time serpentine, loath to even call them tentacles, whatever they are, lash out, wrapping around and crushing the bone of the figure. That nearest tireless takes 12 points more in bludgeoning damage. All right. Next in the order is Krenshaw.
All right. Krenshaw is going to run up towards the bushes, staying not looking at that thing, and then looking past it, fires again with his crossbow at the menai hovering above the bush.
All right.
Rolling another 11 to attack.
11.
I'm going
that's
to use my
3 in
GM
a row.
inspiration on that one and try again.
Let's see if we can break that streak.
Nope, that's a 7. So
Still a broken streak. It wasn't an 11.
that's true. And that's it. That's it for now.
All right. Next in the order is Kinnet. You have, seems 3 of your soldiers are screaming. Or Zoom, who has not said a word, your company magi, begins screaming in terror as well, looking at this shifting thing coming towards you all. Ares, Hadreen, another, as well as Commander Brahm, all still mostly seem to have their stuff together. Thrumnir is also moving pretty steadily as he shifts just north of you. So how does Kinnet proceed?
All right, I'm gonna start moving, and I'm gonna start talking. I'm gonna try to give an inspiring little speech to these guys as I go. I'm gonna say, "Look, guys, we were sent out with a mission. We have the information. We just need to get back. Kill the glass thing." And with that, I will shoot this guy hovering above the weeds over here.
Awesome.
With a 10, I'm going to use my session inspiration to re-roll that if I could.
Absolutely.
I rolled the same 10.
Amazing.
So I'm not inspired. My speech apparently did not inspire me at all.
No, apparently not. But you do see at least those who are still with it. You can kind of, because you see that steadies them a little bit. RS shoulders sort of drop down. Adrien looks a bit less frantic. And Thrumnir says, "Attend the commander! Here's words." So that is just a very few attacks now. No longer sort of hail of silver. Now it's more a drip coming from your side to the other.
Single tiny snowball.
Once more, it gestures with its pinky. The air ripples. I know that was. Yeah, it already did. So that. Yeah, it is not yet needed to. It summons that magical shield once more. And this time it's Hadreen who manages to punch through it, the air rippling very quickly as her bolt slams into, shattering some of the glass on the menai's ribs. But if anything, the creature just grins wider. It seems almost gleeful. And you can tell that the bolts still aren't penetrating as deeply as they should, as deeply as you have. Even among the Lear, it seems that they're not quite so hardy or resistant to your pretty well enchanted equipment. It's additional saves for those who are ensnared by the vision of the horror demon, either staring dumbly at it, trying to understand it, or screaming open-mouthed. But none of them seem to recover. One does stop screaming, then just staring open-mouthed at the shifting feathers, turned scales, turned wisping tatters of rotten cloud sliding over oily water. It's like many things, but nothing you've ever seen. Next in the order is Zim.
Oh, look down at the wand. You're the last charge I got, and fire away again at the menai.
All right. All right. This time, unable to, caught in the midst of holding and maintaining, summoning another magical effect. It's unable to absorb any of that. However, it is, once more, able to sort of turn its face away from the heart of the explosion, sort of putting its shoulder and its cloak over, shielding its face somewhat, perhaps holding its breath if these creatures even breathe. But it is not able to use its magic to defend itself. And it takes perhaps the most you've seen it take at once. Its robes now aflame, its left side, its armor burned. You can even see some of the broken glass is sort of melted a bit into slag. Part of its face, a ruined mass of blisters. But pale and white, not the angry red that any of the other folk would turn if wounded or hurt. You don't even see any blood flowing from where the crossbow bolts have slammed into its body. Any other, let's see here. Anything else for Zim?
I'll scramble through tree limbs. I don't think I have anything else that does any good. Nope, that's it.
All right. All right, 5, 10, 15. So Saida just continues moving. What is it? Okay, that's not right. Let's go with that.
Can I recommend something for her? Or
Sure, absolutely. You all can definitely recommend something for your
Okay,
fellow
I would
players.
say she should use the move action to move, use the dodge action to dodge, and then taunt the heck out of that thing and try to get it to pay attention to her.
Does she have any spell slots left? Doubt it. I don't know.
She definitely has cantrips, but I don't think she has any spell slots left.
Yeah, I think she used up her last smite spell, her last leveled spell in the last combat.
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, no smites for us. Alright.
All right. So, as Saida steps forward, keeping her body angled, ready to move, dodge, whatever this creature is going to do, she begins shouting at it and speaking to it in harsh tones. She's speaking her own tongue, and not the trade tongue that you all speak. The more elegant phrases of Elsie high speech, their courtly tongue and their tongue of magic. It sounds like she's redressing a wayward student, or mocking a weakened combatant. We'll let Evelyn let us know when she joins us next session what that was. She does just that, ready to dodge and move aside, with a 23 to her intimidation check to make this thing focus on her.
Probably saying, "Come at me, you pasty bitch."
Indeed. But it doesn't come at her. It does sort of turn, floating lazily in the air. It smiles and points a finger. A pebble of flashing silver with almost gray scaled, a muted rainbow trail after it arcs toward her. She kind of cuts her head to the side and shakes her head at the wicked creature. Once and twice more. It seems to be flicking fingers, these small silver pebbles appearing out of nowhere, streaking muted rainbow after. One of them manages to hit, and you hear the breath knocked out of Saida's lungs, but she stands. She does not fall, although you can tell that this hurt. Hold on, one more thing. Now the bolts, all of the bolts that have missed, that have fired toward it, that were sort of slowed down, stopped in the air, as if they're continuously slowing down further and further, but never quite stopping, still inching toward the menai's chest. They are turning black, they're shriveling as if tarnishing in rapid time. But something more happens. They shrivel to small specks, each of them. The other bolts still lancing through the air toward them, each sucked in closer, shrinking to small motes. The ones lodged in the creature's chest seem to drift outward, and these motes begin to swirl around Menai. The Menai points toward towards Saida. And Saida needs to make a saving throw. So let's see here. got her sheet open. Who would like to make a saving throw for Saida? Bri, how about you?
Which kind?
Oh, you can just roll the d20. I've got her bonus over here. It's going to be a this is going to be a Constitution saving throw. All right.
16.
Well, so that is a straight roll, as no negative, but no bonus to Constitution either, and Saida does not have proficiency in it. But that 16 is going to save, saving her half the damage of this effect. But one by one, these blackened motes sort of arc, like flowing together, almost like in a cone from around the menai. They sort of swoop in and they dart toward Saida. They seem to one by one pass through her heart, sort of driving her back, and she's forced to steady herself, her elbow on a nearby tree. But once more, Saida does not fall. Next in the order is Krenshaw. Friend's side is very hurt, however. Much more of that, and she's probably going to go down.
How does just a quick refresher? How does jumping work? Because I know the menai is about 10 feet off the ground, right?
Yes.
Okay. How does jumping work?
Well, that puts you 6 feet high. You can jump. You can jump that high without any sort of check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Without going in depth into the rules, you're in a good position. No roll. You can just, if you're trying to jump and make a strike, or something like that, or touch the person.
Yeah. So Krenshaw is going to kind of run up. He's going to use the dash action to run up and jump up over. He's going to try and jump up and make an attack roll using action surge. So the dash action is that, and then action surges so he can make an attack while he's jumping.
Gotcha.
And
Awesome.
He's going to be swinging his longsword at it. So other than an attack roll, is there something you want me to throw out?
I would say no.
Okay.
From where you're at, yeah, that terrain's pretty decent. It's not going to slow you down.
Okay. So leaping in the air, swinging with his longsword. For a 13 to hit.
All right, let me see here.
Wanted that to be epic. All right.
Session inspiration, man.
I've already used it.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yep. Yeah.
13 is going to miss, unfortunately. The blade seems to come close before those green sparks arc out, just millimeters from the glass armor itself. But still, it's a beautiful sight for everyone to behold as old Krenshaw charges across, his boots splashing, raining clods of dirt and mud aside. The spear-like leaves off the trees being dashed aside as he leaps into the air and brings the sword down. The menai's defenses are quite potent, and the blade misses. All right. Now, the creature did move when it was summoned. This time it drifts on its own. It moves to here, once more slashing out at Ares and another creature. It connects once and twice with one of the other soldiers. It attempts once more to grab Ares. This time it does so. The coils, the strange, what looks at now like perhaps eel skin or dried and rotted rope, is now wrapped around Ares's torso, squeezing tight. Ares is now screaming, not in fear, but in defiance, challenge, and anger. As if all of them are mixed together. The thing's lifting up off his feet as Ares continues to fire into the creature. Next in the order is Kinnet.
Okay, well, I'm at 2 hit points. Saida's going down. Oh, Krenshaw for the win at this point. All I can do is just fade around in the back here and make sure that I don't die, I guess. Alright, so I'll shift this way, and I'll make a rousing speech again, and I'll say, "It's working! It's working! We almost got it! It's on its last leg! Just one last shot!" And then I'll take a shot.
All right. You can also make a persuasion check with that if you like. If you think you're lying, it might be a deception check.
Well, 7 on persuasion. I already rolled it, so I'll stick
Okay.
with a 7 on
That's
persuasion.
fine. All right. Let's see the attack roll. It has not many. There's no responses to that.
It's a 9, so I failed in all regards, and I shall be done.
The 9, certainly a miss. But you see one of your Sorin shake off the effects of sort of the stupor of staring at this horror demon. The two that are clustered together, just to the left of the map, one of them shakes themselves free, steps away from their companion, creating a little bit more space. Taking its tips from you, still firing at the menai, it sort of looks to see where Kinnet is sighting and fires at the menai as well. A brave shot, but the bolt misses. Dominier also fires. The rest continues to fire. Let's see. I believe that's just one more for Dream. A lot of the Sorin to the south have broken off the ones remaining. Thrumnir. Thrumnir's wise enough; he's still attacking the menai, but he actually does manage to hit. Hadreen manages to hit the horror, and Arrest does as well. It seems every time it's hit, the whole thing seems to, the area around it seems to ripple, as if the whole thing, not its skin or its body, as if everything that you're seeing is an illusion or impression of whatever this creature is that you're fighting. As if there's a truer form that your brain won't comprehend. So it just seems like the whole thing ripples as it takes 2 of these silver bolts. It seems less substantial now. The one bolt rips past the menai's shoulder. You hear another tinkling of glass as perhaps another glancing blow is scored from the menai on the menai. That is your Sorin Moore. Next in the order is Zim.
Alright, move forward a little bit, all I can. And then cast another ice knife, but I'm not aiming for the menai. I am just looking for it to explode right there, next to him on the southwest.
All right.
So going right there with it.
All right, and what was your DC? That the DC was 13?
12.
12, okay. All right, go ahead and roll that damage.
6.
All right, excellent. Again, unable to absorb any of that elemental damage, its defense and its reaction spent on that shield spell. It takes the damage. It seems, its flesh seems more translucent. Its glossy black eyes, a flinty gray now. It's, Even its hair, which is raven black, thick strands, almost rope-like, seem to be thinning and graying as well. It's clear that you're hurting the thing.
And that's all I got.
All right. So next in the order, Saida. She shoves herself off the tree with the elbow, her blade stumbling forward, brandishing her scimitar, which blazes with green fire arcing down it. Just because that's what she does. She steps forward and slashes once. Someone else can roll that d20 if they like.
I gotcha. Awesome. That's a 3.
You're not allowed to roll anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna
I
make Joe
rolled
take
good
the
the
next one.
first time.
That's true. That's true. She slashes once and misses. And once more, shouts.
Oh yeah. Can we session inspiration for her? Is that a thing?
It's going to be once per player at the table.
Okay.
And
All right.
she's not at the table at the moment. There's only 3 inspirations all told at the table. So Saida misses, but she continues shouting at the creature, grabbing its attention, tone of reprimanding, scornful, coming from her now rasping voice. As she slashes on it, Krenshaw, you have come close. A few remaining black, inky flecks sort of swirling around the creature seem to pull close to its body and quickly turn into long, black, thorny spikes that shoot outward through you and through Saida. Forces a Constitution save from both of you.
Just a 10 from Crenshaw.
Okay. Krenshaw you take 9 points of damage. Saida, her tone just gets louder as she's shouting at this creature. She seems unaffected. One of them lances right through her shoulder, and she just absolutely ignores it, yelling at this creature. Seems like she made her save. I've also lost your reaction for this turn. Once those sort of black motes spear through your body.
Okay.
On its turn, it points. Horror demon continuing to move south, now having Ares and the others in tow. Begins to drift toward Kinnet. One of the Soren, oh goodness, goes limp in the clutches of the demon and is dropped to the ground. The other sort of wraps around Ares, seemingly trying to throttle him, but he's still weaving his head to the side, pushing some of the other tentacles away, keeping it from grabbing hold of him. It squeezes again. You hear a crunch of bone. Ares seems quite hurt. The menai raises a foot and seems to stomp on the air. A peal of thunder comes out. The air ripples. Small sparks of static electricity issue out from it, forcing Saida and Krenshaw to make Constitution saving throws.
It's a 6.
All right.
7 plus whatever for Saida.
Okay. Let's see here.
I have not rolled above a 10 this entire session, except for when I rolled for Saida that one time.
So, you take 2 points of damage and are knocked back 5 feet. Saida does the same, and she lands heavily, does not move. Then, as if to make matters worse, the creature drifts back toward Krenshaw, then points to the south. And once more, an arc of electricity flies from its fingertips through the tireless and into Ares. And actually, no. After that, it steps forward and then points, putting a line of electricity right through the remaining tireless, through Ares and through Hadreen, forcing each to make their saves. You can go ahead and make that save for the tireless.
Tireless. Dex save?
Yes, dex save.
Surprisingly, a 17.
Excellent. All right. All right. That is 9 points of damage to the tireless. Ares also goes limp in the horror demon's arms and drops to the ground. Or it drops the creature to the ground. Hadreen seems very hurt, but is still standing. Unsteadily a bit. Next in the order, Krenshaw.
All right. Krenshaw is going to bonus action second wind and regain 12 hit points.
All right. Call.
And then he is going to approach the menai and swing away with his longsword. For a 24 to hit.
24. That is going to hit.
All right. Give it 8 slashing damage with the silvered longsword.
As you cut into, now at the back of its shoulder, you hear the shattering of glass, the ochre robe sort of parting. Again, no blood, but you feel it cut into bone. The wounds this creature has taken, inhuman. It should be dead already. But you imagine it can't take much more punishment. It's still standing. Can't imagine that it's standing for much longer.
And that does it for Krenshaw.
Ooh. And this time, the attack forces the menai to lose concentration. The strange tentacled apparition seems to fold inward, the tentacles sucking as if back into nothing. And there's a sound of squealing metal, not of it bending, but it being burnt. And the smell of burnt copper as this creature vanishes. Leaving Kinnet next in the order.
Alright, so that thing's gone now. I will spread
Seems that
out
way.
again, avoiding fireball formation as much as possible. And I will shoot an arrow.
All right. We lose DL?
I think we did, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
He
boy.
should be back in just a second.
Yeah, probably so.
Everyone's having internet problems tonight.
Beautiful.
$16.
16. That is a hit, whether it's attention taken by something else, or if it sort of ran out of that power, spent those spells, it seems unable to summon that particular defense.
8 points of piercing damage.
This time the bolt drives through its neck. Somehow, the menai is still hovering above the air, still menacing, its fingers still weaving together in the shapes of magic. It's a good hit for Kinnet, but this thing is incredibly tough.
Oh, okay, one more. Just one more, guys. Come on. Let's go home.
Make that check then. Make another persuasion, or, if you lie, maybe a deception.
12 persuasion. I don't think I'm lying. I think I really want to go home. I want to get this information back. I want to do something to help my guys get through this so that we can just make it back.
Yeah, I think the difference is if you didn't think that they were going to make it through it, or you didn't think it was just one more round, then that would probably be a deception. But if you believe that's true, then
yeah, I don't necessarily believe the thing about one more shot, but just I'm saying that to try to motivate the guys to keep shooting at it.
Fair. Well, the rest of the Soren shake off those still around from near, a couple of others, or shake off the effects and continue to fire at the menai. A few bolts get close before they explode in a shower of green sparks. From near fires. Actually, no. Yeah, from near continues to fire. He moves and ducks down, breaking line of sight. The other Soren, Hadreen, takes a step forward, just trying to get a better shot. Takes a few more steps. And next in the order is Zim. None of the bolts seem to strike true.
So I'm just going to move up closer a little bit. Getting right there. I'm going to target the menai with a magical stone. I have imbued with magic last session. And toss it. At the menai. This is the spell.
Alright, let's see that attack roll.
And that does it.
9 is going to miss.
Alright. That is all I got.
Alright.
Unless you let me retcon and actually use this tireless for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, please make a move for the tireless.
Forgetting about he'll move towards the
Menai now raising its fingers.
a 6 to hit. Alright, he's done his job for this session.
Absolutely. Menai sort of steps floats disdainfully out of reach as the spear does not strike home. It points in the direction of both Zim and the Soren Moore. This time, sort of looping ropes of flame seem to come out of 3 of its fingers, burning through the rainy air and the sodden foliage. Arcing toward both Zim and the Soren, seem to weave around and through anything that's breaking the line of sight, seeming to ignore cover. However, it's still very hard to see you. One lance hits Zim, and one of them hits the Soren. The other one misses Zim. It's one of these bolts of fire, I believe, for a 26 to hit on Zim.
It's gonna hit. got a whopping 13 AC.
Right. All right. And that is going to be 7 points of fire damage to Zim. Once more, those sharp, shadowy spikes of black seem to spear out from the creature's body into Krenshaw and the tireless once more. Tireless seems to have no effect on the tireless, but Krenshaw must make another Constitution saving throw.
15.
Fantastic. This seems to have no effect. You feel sort of a strange coolness through your body where this touches you, but no other effect. It then flies straight up, provoking attacks of opportunity from you and from the tireless. It moves up
21
about
to hit.
30 feet. That is a hit.
16 for the turrets.
That's also a hit. That is its AC without any of its extras.
9 damage from Krenshaw, slashing.
7 damage from the Titan's dead.
So Crenshaw, as you slash into, sort of leaping up again, slash into its hip and leg, the tireless thrusting out with its spear. There is a hollow popping sound, as if something pulled out of an airtight container, or something, almost like a large, perhaps stony bubble popping. There's a pressure in the air, a chittering, almost screeching sound that you didn't realize was invading your senses just by being near this thing. Perhaps it was the horror. They're both gone. A sense of pressure on your skin, gone. The muted air around you, that sort of shadow clinging to the thing's robes, also gone. As it drops, it continues moving up, just the momentum of its magic, drops back down in a shattering of glass and a tangle of limbs. It's all of its limbs at an unnatural sort of angle, as if it just doesn't have bones like any of the folk do. Its eyes are now white. Its hair's lank and white. You can kind of see through the locks of hair now. Its almost pebbled skin now appearing scaly, as if the texture of its flesh has also shifted. Hadreen dashes forward, or actually looks to the side, and begins sort of checking over the wounds of the nearest. The other sword nearby moves up past her to do the same. Krenshaw, how do you respond to this? What do you do as this thing drops to the ground?
So as Krenshaw bites into it with his sword and sees it drop, he's going to look over his shoulder, and he's going to run and slide over to Saida and one of the good berries that Kinnet gave him. He's going to put it in her mouth and move her jaw like this. And stuff her face with good berries once more.
She kind of comes to, what are you doing? Her voice rasps
Just
out.
saving your life. Again.
Well, I suppose it was going to be one of us saving the other. At least, it's hoped. How about Kinnet? What are Kinnet's thoughts as you dash forward?
My thoughts are just on getting back to the strand at this point. Gather everybody up. There's dead bodies on the ground that need to be dead bodies, walking on skeleton feet. So let's go. Let's get the tireless dead up and going. Zim. And then
I got a lot of work to do. I need to get these things. These are previous friends up and about. And then no, we'll just take the whole thing. Go. I think that works. As I point at the menai.
Indeed. All right. So some of your soldiers begin doing as instructed. They're trying to help each other out.
If anybody's alive, we'll try to resurrect any of these soldiers that are still like hanging on.
Okay. Let's see here. It seems that Ares is alive. However, Bost seems beyond recovery.
I'll good bury that arrest then.
Okay. Ares comes back. As he comes to, he immediately goes to check on Bost. Throws a few insults toward Bost. Seems to be half-hearted at first. Note of anger in his voice as he sort of nudges at Bost with his toe.
Can Krenshaw make a move at a turn?
Yeah, sure.
Just he would kind of, as he, maybe him and Saida are walking back, he's gonna come up and just kind of like put his hand on it which was Arrest that was able to be brought back.
Yeah.
He's just gonna put his hand on his shoulder and not say anything.
He sort of jerks, looks over at you, catches your eyes for a long moment, and he just looks away. He looks down, nods, and goes to check more wounded. And he steps away and gets to business.
I'm going to say, ARS, I think Crenshaw's going to take care of your mom from here on out.
He kind of gives a half-hearted smirk. Thanks for that, he says, pretty dryly. Nods and goes back to it. As for the rest, the tireless that fell are spent. Their bodies racked, the only thing useful, their bones racked and broken, but their gear is certainly useful. So once tended to, the next order of business for the Soren is to collect as much of that gear as they can. You can strike any of this stuff, however. But before we continue, since we're on the Soren's turn, they're being directed by you all. Let's take a short break, grab ourselves a glass of water, something like that. But yeah, so before we step back into it, I thought it might be good to just check in with our players and see what everybody thought about that fight, and check in with those of you watching. Mega, Micro, a few other folks there. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, how did that fight go for you all? Brian, how about you? As someone who plays in the campaign but missed this particular intro to the campaign session or the setting, what did you think? How did that feel for you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the menai are definitely scary. So, it's terrifying to go up against someone who's got that many shield spells and just, like, ways to get out of damage. I thought the fight went really well. So, I mean, honestly, like, we're going up against someone who's pretty intense.
Indeed. Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, and y'all hustled really well and pulled out a lot of moves. The rolls that weren't necessarily with y'all this session. And so, well, there were a lot more casualties than there might have been if those rolls were with you. But yeah, still pretty bracing. How about you, DL? Any thoughts on the fight? Any insights, difficulties, particular things you liked or didn't like?
Saida had expressed her reservations and said, I'm not going to run forward. And I'm like, I know what she can do. And then right after that, I thought, she said she didn't want to run forward. I probably just got her killed. And then I had like all kinds of guilt. But no, I mean, I like combats like this that are really hard. And, you barely make it through. But I think, if it wasn't for Wand of Fireballs, I don't know where this combat would have ended up. But, a couple big hits from that seemed to grind through a bunch of his defensive stuff. So
Yeah.
I think Wand of Fireball's MVP in this case.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, forcing the menai to choose whether it was going to absorb elements or cast that shield spell. Yeah. And then once it did choose, hammering it with the other. Worked out pretty well. How about you, Joe? Any thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I thought it went as good as menai fights typically go. Having survived 3 or 4 of them in the campaign, this is preludes of. Um, yeah. I mean, they're a very strong spellcaster for a level 2s going against them, but I think that just makes it a lot of fun. I mean, we have support. We have a whole group of people who some might survive. You know? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't lose as many players as we lost the last time this battle happened in my purview, so...
That's definitely true. That is definitely true.
I think the mini Cthulhu had less impact than it could have.
Yeah, for sure. There were some good rolls and good saves, although it did take about half your remaining soldiers out of commission until it vanished.
I just mean by the fact that we were spread out enough that it wasn't like plopped down in the middle of the group or whatever. So
Yeah,
I don't mean that
stayed.
let's say it wasn't played well. I'm just saying that it couldn't get to as many targets as it might have.
Gotcha, yeah.
And
Totally.
we stayed close together, we'd have been just annihilated.
Yep.
Just kind of what happened the first time we had a menai fight when I was present. So, yeah. It definitely helped to spread out.
Awesome. Yeah. No boss. That's a rough one for the company morale, particularly for Aressa's morale.
I'll harass him all the way back.
He needs it. He's gonna have something's gonna have to keep him oriented. His better half is, well, you know. All right. So with that good feedback, let's step back into the moment. I'm going to bring us back briefly over to our map. Let's see how we're looking. Still pretty good.
I'm pretty sure his wife still has my favorite socks.
When you hit him with stuff like that, he'll just sort of give a half smile and nod, sort of like he knows what you're doing and he appreciates it. He's not responding other than that at the moment. He seems pretty focused on business, although he's acknowledging, and you can tell because of that acknowledgement, you can tell that it's helping. He's just not, it's keeping him steady to some degree, because you'll catch him start to get that sort of look, like not far away, but like he's lost in his head, and not paying attention. And you'll come and give him some jibe, mention, to make sure that his mom darns your socks for you before she sends them back. And he'll kind of nod, and a couple of times he thanks you in a low voice. 'Cause like I said, he's a pretty pro soldier. He knows what you're doing.
I'm going to look for any little bits of severed tentacle that might still be hanging around.
Okay. As you all, Zim is scouting already, sort of getting pieces and parts of whatever other plants that he missed on the way in, moving toward the menai to make sure that's packed away, and that they're not touching any of its equipment, because you don't know what it can do, what's volatile and what isn't. Between the two of you, you do find a long, at first it looks like a piece of moldering yarn, sort of tendrils coming off of it. To Zim, I'm sorry, it probably looks like a bit of fungal mycelium from under the soil, or a piece of nerve or something like that. It's a mottled gray.
Here, put it in this jar.
Excellent. Probably hand him a set of tongs. And yeah, this shifting sort of gray-green, but at the same time, it's like a lustrous peacock blue. Many patterns seem to want to come to mind when you stare at this thing, but nothing that matches it is sort of in your experience. It is an impossible object. Still moving as if alive, carefully grabbing it with steel tongs, drop it back into the little jar. Now, as you are, you have a few dead. The living a good berry. Do you all take a moment for a break to get people bandaged, to get people back to rights? Do you stop to animate the fallen dead as per protocol? Yeah?
Yeah. I think Zim will animate them, and then for now they're going to be the ones carrying the menai corpse
Okay.
out of here.
So many of the Soren, like usual, look away, busy themselves with what they're doing, as the magi, has the remaining dead drag its new brethren, so to speak, into a proper circle. You use the proper oils, anoint them, but most of the Soren turn their eyes away from the shifting light, the deepening shadows, the brightened highlights, as if light doesn't want to act as it normally does in the sphere of this fell magic, where you can feel sort of the tattered remains, not the will of the spirit, but what the magi say they think of as a recording in space-time. The ghost is not the consciousness, but what this magic does is it sort of binds that ghost to the bones itself, and they will continue to follow what they did in life, like what the Magi say many ghosts will do, sort of follow through as they're just impressions of the person. But this bound into the body, bound into, well, those fateful words, the oath of the effort. We pledge to serve the effort in life and in death to serve it still. You can feel all those things tie together as you bind this magic into your fallen comrades. The one soldier looking, though, is Ares, who, in between his work, is staring over, watching as you tend to the fallen, particularly to Bosht. He looks hard at you. Not to say, don't do this, Magi, as if to say, treat him proper, Magi. So the only one watching during this is Ares. During all this, Saida is sort of, is moved back as she's looking over the menai and a bit up toward the front with Kinnet just keeping an eye, looking back. She's not necessarily she knows she's not the leader. That's not the role that she wants. But she does know, as one of the Elsie, she's looked at as being in the camp of, and she is in the camp of the sword mistress, the sword master Asherdan, and so she draws the eye and is sort of a rallying point. So she tries to stay near the new commander, as morale is pretty well in tatters. Again, most of the company is fairly silent, the banter of Ares and Bost. You now recognize how much air that filled and how much of the tension that took away, likely for everybody. And in that silence, it's a hardened silence, to put it lightly. Krenshaw, how are you conducting yourself as everyone readies themselves to move out? The soldiers binding their wounds.
Krenshaw wants to just make sure that everyone is kind of ready to move out. As the new tireless dead are being created, and he wants to make sure people are ready to move, and he's just reminding people just a little bit further till we get back to Eversar. We'll make it there before nightfall.
Awesome. So since you and Kinnet are both speaking to the soldiers, trying to keep them on task and on focus, you can either both roll that persuasion, or one of you can roll with and the other gives advantage. It's entirely up to you two how that's going to be.
DL, you want advantage?
I just got a +1, so I'll take it if you want.
I got a +2. I can go for it.
All right, I'll give you advantage.
Not that it makes that much of a difference, but you never know.
1 point could make all the difference.
Eh,
If you can roll
13.
above 10, that is.
I can't. Well, I did. It's an 11, so I got a 13 on my persuasion.
Awesome. No, 12 was the success, was the DC here. So that is a success. And you notice that what happens is Hadreen begins to banter with one of the other soldiers, begins to banter with Brahm, who is now in official capacity, just the second in command. Still poisoned, still moving very slow. You can't tell what the rain is slicking his face and what is the sort of sweat from the poison running through his systems. It's also quite possible he caught some sort of bug, as the Firma is full of diseases, and that's not something you all have quite mastered yet. However, the rations that you all eat have antifungals and all sorts of other agents that are supposed to help keep you all safe from, well, fungal rot, and all sorts of other different bacteria and, well, disease vectors, diseases on the firm. But one of you has only been eating their own food that they prepared. I believe that was DL. So, DL, you're going to need to make a Constitution save versus disease. Oh, don't think I forgot that from the first session, DL.
All right.
Fantastic! But Kinnet has intentionally imbibed worse stuff than what he trods upon in the firm. The life on the sea has not always been an easy one, particularly if you're not part of a noble family and you weren't blessed to live among the elves, either as one with their blood or one invited to live in the sort of no man's land around their cities. For whatever reason, though, Kinnet, you do not feel a flush. You don't have a sort of sweat. Yeah. But having been poisoned by the same manticore, you all are determined that it's not a manticore's poison. This is some sort of disease or some sort of problem that has been getting him since that fight with the manticore and that last fight with the first fight with the Lear. Since then, since somewhere around then, what you thought was poison, you're starting to suspect is some sort of disease that, well, the effort should be able to take care of once you get him back. Zim, again, as you finish your ritual, the soldiers sort of stand, and you can feel them sort of through the amulet, that things that you can put pressure on to move.
Alright, I'll start going over and examining the menai.
Okay.
I'm waiting for if it's going to give an order to go or find a place to rest.
So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and clear out the initiative really quick. And we can go ahead and highlight our tokens and re-roll our exploration initiative. Just to refresh it, change things around a bit. All right. Okay, so as Zim, you begin to move up toward the menai, begin examining it. And its features continue to change. They seem to be sharpening. Anywhere where there be cartilage in one of the folk, the nose, the ears, are slowly getting more angular, as if what passes for cartilage in this creature is crystallizing after it's passed away, some strange form of rigor mortis, perhaps. Its body isn't stiffening, however. It's the opposite. It seems to be looser. It reminds you somewhat of what the effort called manticore, and how they soften and become almost gel-like as they die. You see more than one similarity in the nature of them. You do see blood now, but it is a clear-ish gray substance, the menai. It's similar in texture, even, to the manticore. You don't necessarily think they're related. The manticore do not seem natural. From everything that you've observed, you think they are some sort of magical creation, or they're from another realm or something. They are not natural creatures. But perhaps something in their nature, comes from the menai. in your reports and such, you've read that the menai, well, they summon all sorts of strange things. Masses of slime full of mouths and eyes that chatter and gibber as they attack. Strange, like slime and gelatin creatures, but also other just monstrosities and abominations. Wouldn't surprise you if it's something that was made in part using some of their physiological capabilities. The menai, at least in death, seem to be protean. They form the body changing rapidly.
Do I think this thing will be a decent enough specimen before it gets back to Evistar?
You think so? It's not. You don't think it's so much deteriorating as it's just sort of reaching a different state. It doesn't seem to be decaying further than that. The features, the appearance that I said, the pebbling becoming more like scaled in appearance. Its hair sort of thinning and fading in color as its eyes do. That all fades. That stops pretty quickly once it progresses to a certain point. So too the crystallization in cartilages. The joints seem somewhat stiffer, again following with whatever crystallization of cartilage, but the bones seem softer, kind of like the manticore after they die. So
Also look if it's wearing anything or has anything that's not following its body. Changes.
Well, aside from, it has very little on it. You don't see any sort of food or personal effects. It has this ochre glass armor that you can see through. You can see the fine, like silks and brocades underneath, brocaded velvets and such. Very fine robes. It has rings on all of its fingers. Incredibly fine jewelry. A prince's or princess's ransom. Not just gold and silver and mithril, but a rarer still true steel and sky steel, and something that's rarer than that called God's Tear, a black, hardened material. You suspect that any one of these are magical. It also has a very small, silver-bound spellbook in a fine case that's clasped to its waist, indicating that it is a librarian of a sort, a type of mage that gets its power from studies, as opposed to sorcerers like where they get their power from their spirit, others who get their power from gods, or you who draws your power from your knowledge of manipulating and juxtaposing the forces of nature. So, yeah, it seems in good condition to move. You imagine there's going to be a lot of discoveries made off of this. As far as you know, this is the first menai corpse that's been recovered. There's been pieces of others from pitched battles, from which the companies that managed to get those feet, like a fingertip, fared just as badly as your company did, and didn't even, had to escape it and run away from it, and still fared as badly in that. So you also expect a pretty good reward in terms of notoriety, rank, and credits, pay, bonuses. So yeah. Any other questions or thoughts about or in this environment before you all continue to navigate back to the Strand?
All right, Kinnet, you suggested a short rest, but we're aware that combat tends to bring other things
True enough.
out of areas. So is there anything that we hear, that we see?
Well, you all could definitely make perception checks and see what it is we might hear or see.
There's a name for me.
22 for Krenshaw.
Not bad. Krenshaw.
One for Zim.
Not bad. Okay, Kinnet and Krenshaw. The thing that stands out the most is the absolute silence of the area around you, as if the presence of the menai cowed everything. The insects and birds, squirrels and lizards, even the small shifting things in the moldering undergrowth, like moldering leaves on the jungle floor, are silent. It's as if a bubble around you, maybe 120 feet across, exists around this corpse. You can hear sounds starting to creep back in at the edges. But for a brief and blessed moment, the only thing that you hear are the distant sounds from the north of another company in combat, and the distant sounds much more comforting of the soldiers bantering a quarter mile away at the bulwark strand, your goal, where you will rest for the rest of the afternoon until the evening bridge is assembled. Doesn't seem that anything else is currently threatening you. Although lack of motion and sound doesn't mean lack of threat. Certainly, if there were anything large, you would hear them either moving to you or escaping. So you don't hear anything like manticore or any leer or anything like that. It seems as if the company of Lear, the war party, if they followed you, are observing, but you haven't caught any sight or sound of them. Maybe they're curious about the pillar too. You have no idea what they know about it. It doesn't look like it was used or tended to. It seemed to just be an old place. So, some of you, perhaps Zim is curious why the Lear didn't follow you and what they're discovering if they had more capabilities than you all. But it certainly seems clear to at least begin navigating back to the firm, or back to the strand.
It seems pretty silent. We could probably take a break if you want to.
The short rest is about 15 minutes, right? In this particular. Okay.
Indeed.
Krenshaw might suggest maybe we send Thrumnir ahead and see if he can see an easy path back to the bulwark, which, I mean, if it's only a quarter mile away, probably only a 15, 30-minute walk through the jungle.
Yeah, if nothing, if the path is as it was before, and there's nothing you all have to contend with, in about 10 minutes you should be stepping back on the sand.
Okay. Yeah. So we could ask Thrumnir to step ahead and see if the path is still clear.
Does that sound good to Kinnet? Or do you have different ideas?
No, that's fine. I think a short rest is in order, so take a rest, and if we get a scout out there, all the better.
All right. So Thrumnir steps out. You can feel free, Joe, you can roll a d20 for Thrumnir for his perception check on that scouting.
I'm gonna send my hawk with him.
Okay, awesome.
Only a 5.
It's all right. You can also roll for your hawk.
Thinking.
All right. All right. There doesn't seem to be much at all moving in this area, as the hawk is a bit above, sort of weaving through perhaps underneath the canopy, but still pretty high where it can see through this maze, this three-dimensional maze of greenery, seeing snippets here of long sight through the jungle, broken up by, clusters of underbrush and other branches that flies along. You see, the closest thing you see is on the very northern edge of the first area you pass through. You see a pack of manticore. They seem to be feeding on something else. So I think the closest you'll pass is about 150 feet from them. But you can keep an eye on them as you progress throughout your rest. They don't seem to move.
My hawk circling.
All right. Your hawk circles. Thrumnir kind of moves back and forth on a northern arc around you all, just double checking the terrain. He's not taking any chances. Occasionally you see a flash from his signal mirror as he catches a bit of light from the sky to signal back to you all, just to let you know his position. Try not to give it away though with any sound. Amazingly, you all are able to rest for 15 minutes. Soldiers sitting down heavily on logs and rock outcroppings. Hadreen stares occasionally stares toward Ares, just sort of watching him. She looks concerned, like he's going to crack up, and she's not the social one. He's out of the other soldiers, a better commander's assistant than she, although neither as good as Krenshaw in terms of helping everyone stay organized under the commander's leadership. Yeah, she's just sort of watching him. There's a look on her face that's... You can all make insight checks as you all get an eye on her for brief moments. There's a peculiar look on her face as she and her eyes sort of pass over Ares. All right. As she doesn't... It doesn't happen when she doesn't know that she's necessarily being scrutinized, so she's not trying to hide anything. She's just kind of looking at him. Krenshaw, this really makes sense for you. But both Sia and, Zim and Krenshaw, it's the look of somebody that knows what someone else is going through. Krenshaw, this is the look of someone who's been through something very, very similar, if not exactly the same. Someone who knows the terrain and is watching specifically for certain signs that she's aware of. So just a little bit of sort of tease insight onto Hadreen's background, perhaps why she's silent and terse. It doesn't seem to be willing to befriend anybody. Perhaps she's made her investments in the past and isn't willing to make any more. You know that she
maybe
survived.
Why she has no problem with the tireless dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Totally
step
fine.
over.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know she was in the first sorties too, but you didn't. Everything was reorganized, so you weren't in the same company with her during that point. But you all can rest. You all can use some hit die to heal, and you all gain another level. You're now 3rd level.
Sweet.
You gain additional hit points. You gain additional spell slots. You gain those class abilities. But as you rest, new insight comes to you. Awareness of talents, or you just become aware of things that you weren't before, or things that you have been aware of, things that you know develop. Certain insights take place during this rest, this odd silence, and having met well the 2 great enemies of the Alliance effort, you rest and prepare to just move through about 300 feet of jungle for blessed sand and a camp with tents, hot food, and a lot more spears and shields and ready hands to wield them. But I think this is probably a good spot to pause for the session. Have a little bit of exploration next session, and then on to Evisar. And next session, there will be a little bit of exploration, obviously, but then it would be a good little bit of role-playing inside Evisar, as you get a view, well, as players, we'll get a view of the city, and deal with the aftermath and repercussions of your actions. This was a great session, really fun, super bracing, and I love that. I'm really glad you all decided to play this intro and to trust me with a little bit. And now you all know why. I give everybody bonus magical weapons at 1st level, and the magi has a wand of fireballs, and because everybody doesn't have healing, just have the hit die potions and such like that, and your own tactics and tools, and as well as the starting equipment. So this was really, really fun and bracing. Like, I really needed that break to take a tension break, because it's intense, just bringing it and just grinding down on my players. And y'all are such good sports. That was really tough and definitely pretty tense. That's what I'm going for, trying to keep it bracing, keep you guys guessing, and make us feel maybe a little bit of sweaty palms, maybe a little bit of trepidation in our decisions. Get to simulate that experience. But then we get to check in and look around and be like, I'm at home, I'm safe, all my stuff's here, I'm playing with my friends, this is great. So that's my part. That was a really fun session. I look forward to a little bit of exploration, a little bit more role play, and pretty soon, maybe 1-2 more sessions, I think we'll be finished with LandFall. And we'll be moving on to our next endeavor, our next scenario. So, that being said, let's check in. Any thoughts? I mean, we checked in after the fight. But now general sort of wrap-in, check-up. How was everybody's session? Any thoughts, Krenshaw?
I have maneuvers now.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Oh my god, I've been wanting those freaking Battlemaster maneuvers for so long. I'm like, I could use all of these.
Awesome.
So happy.
Heck yeah.
So.
All right, DL, how about you? Any thoughts about the session?
Oh, it was good. It was a tough fight. Made us earn our way back home. So yeah, it's cool.
Heck yeah. Awesome. How about you, Joe? Any thoughts for you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, that fight is just, it's rough. Curious to see what people take for their level ups.
Same.
They get, as always, and looking forward to everybody getting to experience going to Evisar back in kind of the first time.
Indeed. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm looking forward for my part. Looking forward to getting to describe and evoke some of that, and hopefully generate sort of questions from you all. And I want to go explore this, and I want to talk to this person. And so yeah, that'd be kind of fun. Although, yeah, you will a little bit, at least for the beginning, be on rails. You've got stuff to do, but then it'll open up a little bit toward maybe about halfway through the session. And, what's that?
Said I gotta go farm that kelp.
Yeah, that's right. Back to the real work.
Kelp farm.
Zim is going to retire after this.
Just for next session, was Saida able to use any of her hit die, or does she have any left? Do you know?
Yeah, well, she'll certainly get some for that level up.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll talk to her about it between sessions, and
Cool.
yeah, we'll have a little bit of, hopefully she'll be back to do that recap, because that worked so good last session. She read that so well. She wrote it herself. It was beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that
That was a
again.
good recap.
Yeah, man. Pon Pon was sorely missed this session. If you're out there listening, Pon Pon, we missed you. And we'll see you next week. But everybody, thank you all for coming and joining us. This has been really, really fun. I look forward to the next session, as always. But yeah, before we hop off, again, I'm DM Feanor. You can find me on all the sites under DM Feanor, just like it says on up here. Yeah, up in the top corner over there. You can find me on here, obviously on Twitch, if you need to find me on Twitch. You can find me on, you can find me on Discord with that same handle. You can look me up. All the different social media. If you're interested in one of my games, you can find me on Start Playing Games, and all that jazz. How about you, DL? DL, thank you again for joining us. Once more, that's Darth Locator, and you can find him on YouTube if you're interested in some of that. What was the game again?
Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is
Right,
the mobile game that I
Galaxy of
covered.
Heroes. Heck yeah. Well, actually, yeah, you speak your piece, DL. I didn't mean to speak for you.
No, it's fine. I mean, you said most of what needed to be said anyway, so yeah, no, just check. If anybody's crossing over watching the games, then come check me out on the YouTube channel. That's cool.
Heck yeah.
Otherwise, just hanging out here with the group of guys then.
Indeed. Excellent. All right, Joe, want to sign yourself off, say goodnight to everybody?
Indeed. Joe Finkowitz, or Jay Finkowitz, on kind of all over the place. Starting a thing called Fink's Gaming that is looking to also stream and do some one-shots here and there. Trying to be ambitious, not overly ambitious, in the realms of D&D and all sorts of other TTRPG games. So just a general TTRPG gamer and DM.
Doing the good work, running games for other people. I appreciate you. All right, Brian, how about you? Sign yourself off. Anything else that you want to say? Anything that you want to share? Anything that you're watching or interested in you want to point out to others in the audience?
No, not at this time. I mean, if you're not watching The Last of Us on HBO, it's an awesome show.
True enough.
I guess that's about it.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Again, this is really a fun session, and to our viewers, thanks again. We'll see you all next time. Yeah. Take care of yourselves and be good to yourselves. Good night, everybody.
Night.